Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Weird World Podcast. My name is Carrie.
I'm Emma.
I'm Dean.
Yay, we have a third person.
You're going to say wheel, weren't you? It's going to be
No,
awkward.
actually, I wasn't. So, hey, Dean, what are you going to talk about today?
Well, as you know, we've been promising some lighter fare because it's been pretty dark lately. It's been some things involving people dying and terrible things and doing terrible things to people.
Yeah.
So we promised some stuff that's a bit lighter. We're going to deliver that today for sure, I think. Someone's going to almost die, but I don't think anybody's going to die in this.
Okay.
And it's fun.
Well,
It's actually about the Olympics, but a very specific Olympics. Notice I didn't say a Special Olympics, but it turned out to be a very special Olympics with a small s because it's the Olympics that very nearly killed the modern Olympic movement.
what?
There almost wasn't an Olympics anymore after this. It was it got
Because it
bad.
was just so silly.
We'll see. There's a
Okay.
lot of things
I
that went
hope
wrong
it.
here. A couple of
I
things
hope
in
it's
particular.
because it was silly.
One thing in particular was insane and widely condemned and almost killed the Olympics, or at the very least killed that event, which is a
Okay.
major event. So,
Because you know, I'm not a huge fan of the Olympics.
no, you're not. You're not. Why
You're
is
not?
it? I know you're not, but I forget why.
You know, there's a lot of hyper nationalism
Yeah.
and competition.
It's funny because
and-
the original the person who founded the modern Olympics, he didn't think of they weren't counting medals by nations for the first several Olympics. Really,
Oh.
that actually the Olympic Committee later went back in time and said, okay, those medals were these countries. I mean, they kind of did, but not really, not like they do now.
So people were mostly competing for themselves, not
More or less,
necessarily
yeah.
representing
I
their
think
country.
early on, yes. I think early on there were nations, helped out and organized and things like that, but
Yeah.
nothing like it is now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not very egalitarian, I don't think. Depending on where you happen to live, is you get a whole lot more
Oh,
resources
for sure.
to be an Olympic athlete than others. So
Yeah.
That's true.
I care mostly about fairness in this world.
That she does.
The Olympics aren't fair. Well, at the very least, they're fair unless they're judged. That the winner does win, and you can actually assess someone.
Sure,
except
but
for
there's
the-
a lot that leads up to the moment of that one game or that one competition or that one something.
All right, so you're gonna have fun with this one, Carrie, because it's about the Olympics entirely.
I'll still enjoy that.
How about this? This will help you. It's about an Olympics that was for shit.
Yeah.
Okay,
It was a very badly
It
done.
was the bad Olympics. Yes.
Okay.
It's 1904 St. Louis Olympics. But let's go back before that now. Let's go back to ancient Greece just to give folks a little, you remember the ancient Greek. That's where the Olympics come from. They're sort of a regional sporting event, but international for the time. But international meant the city 4 miles away. So not quite the same thing. But still, it was international. And it was a pretty big event. And they held some of I'm going to look it up right now. Some of the events that went on in the early Olympics were things like the long jump, the shot put, the javelin throw. They had boxing. They had something called pankration. Don't know what the hell that is. Didn't bother to look it up. They even had equestrian events. And they had speed racing too. And of course, they had wrestling, which was done in nude.
Super homoerotic.
Very homoerotic.
Also dangerous.
Please explain, Carrie. Why was it dangerous?
Wrestling in the nude, some guy could get his nuts jabbed or something.
I'm sure they did jab the nuts.
I don't think they were allowed to do nut jabbing.
I bet they were.
But inadvertently.
I bet
the
they
parts
grabbed-
are flailing around.
You know
that
what?
could happen easily.
They have wrestling now with just they can get
Those
nut
little
jabbed. It's not
singlets.
like
They
they're
wear
wearing cups.
Yes, they do.
They wear cups in wrestling? I
Yes.
obviously did not wrestle.
Don't they?
I don't think they do.
I have no knowledge about wrestling, if I'm being honest.
Somebody asked Jack. I don't know. I legit don't know if they wear cups during wrestling. But you're right.
Yeah.
There's lots of reasons not to nude wrestle with another man, in my opinion. That's not one of them, but now that you say so, sure, that too. So there were attempts to bring back the Olympics way before the modern Olympics started. There were, even back in the 1600s in England, in a place called Chipping Campden in England, they had a thing called the Cotswold Games, and they were sometimes called the Cotswold Olympic Games. And I don't think they were very international. some lawyer made them up and had them not every year, but he had them off and on between 1612 and 1642. The guy's name was Robert Dover. And so, I mean, but they were the idea that you got a bunch of athletes together and had a big tournament and did various sporting events, or as Mint Romney would say, you did sport.
Yeah.
And there were some other semi-international events in Europe and France and things like that. So sometimes, by the way, associated with the World's Fair, you'd have some sporting events associated with a World's Fair in a given city. And finally, a Frenchman named Pierre Baron, of course, Pierre de Coubertin, he decided, I want to make this a big deal. I want to make this truly international. I want to have tons of countries join. I want to have it be a big, major international event. And his genius was that I also want to have it rotate between major world capitals every 4 years. So we'll have it every 4 years, and it'll go from one place to the next place to the next place. The first was going to be Athens in 1896 in Greece, naturally, as an homage to the ancient Olympics. So in 1894, he formed the International Olympic Committee, the same bastion of corruption and destroying the goodness that is sport that it is today.
Sport.
The IOC formed the 1896 Athens Olympics. And a lot of people wanted to hold it in Athens forever, but he was absolutely dead set. Now, we want to make this, I think it'll have more staying power if it goes from city to city to city. He's for sure right.
Yeah.
No question whatsoever. And so they did. They had the Athens Olympics in 1896, and it was a big deal. It was very successful. They had lots of, I have the number somewhere, but they had tons of athletes, hundreds of athletes, and more importantly, they were from a lot of countries. All the European countries and some other Asian countries were involved, in some Middle Eastern countries came together in 1896. Remember, there weren't nearly as many countries then to begin with, because they're mostly colonies of France and Britain and other countries. But a ton of countries were involved, and it was a big hit. Everybody agreed. It's a big deal. It went really, really well. So 4 years later, 1900, they're going to hold it in London, England, the most important city in the world at the time. And it didn't quite bomb, but it was a little underwhelming. It didn't have as many athletes. It didn't have as much interest. It didn't have much press. There wasn't as big a crowd.
A big splash.
Yeah, it made a little bit less of a splash.
It's kind of embarrassing.
Well, they're a little bit low key over there. They probably didn't.
I don't think
hype
that's why.
it up as much as they needed to.
It's not cricket to talk about that ahead of time. Let's not sell tickets. Let's just invite people. No, care. That's not why. It just the Olympics didn't have to become this huge marketing business sport juggernaut that it is today.
Yeah,
could have easily disappeared, and you'd be happy for that.
You get those corporate sponsorships involved. And
yep. There was no. There was no Ford. There wasn't the official tea of the Olympics. Lipton, the official tea of the Olympics. No. Foster's Lager. It's Australian for Olympics beer, mate. So in 1904, they said, let's go outside of Europe. Where was the place to go outside of Europe?
America.
United States of America. One of the biggest countries in the world, certainly one of the wealthiest countries in the world by this point. An important country. Let's go there. Let's make it truly international. We don't want this to become just a European thing. Let's go to the U.S. And so so where do you hold it in the U.S. in 1904? One of the big cities, right? New York was considered. Philadelphia was considered.
Very feasible.
Why?
I don't know.
No reason. Just
she adamantly said it's not feasible, and then adamantly said, "I don't know." In the same breath.
Not actual New York City. When New York has had them, they Lake Placid or whatever.
Sure. That was a winter, and that was never New York City at all. That was New York State. That was nowhere near New York City. But yeah, they could. But the Olympics in the modern times have become kind of regional things anyway. The Los Angeles Olympics in 1984 were all over Southern California, as you recall.
I only recall the one event I went to, and that was in Los Angeles.
What event did you go to?
But they're
girls gymnastics.
Oh.
Girls gymnastics.
It was a
girls
big deal.
Gymnastics, she says.
Oh, women's.
There you go. Thank you.
Gymnastics at UCLA.
It was all over. But yeah, no, they're mostly in and around Los Angeles, but they're all over the place.
Yeah.
And they are today. They're all over the place.
Well, yeah.
But Los Angeles is
a
lot different.
That's true.
It's super spread out, and there's a lot,
Yes. Well, they consider New York. Remember, they didn't need that much like they would now. There weren't nearly as many sports as there are now. They didn't need as many venues as they do now. So they considered New York. They considered Philadelphia. Chicago won out, though. Chicago was a major city. Chicago was not a world capital, but a major city. It had the venues. It had the population base. It had the gravitas to be a significant event. Here was the problem. At the same time, in 1904, a group in St. Louis was putting together the Louisiana Purchase Exposition. That was a big deal. It may not sound like it. It was the centennial, kind of. They were a year late due to some organizing snafus of the Louisiana Purchase, where the U.S. bought from France about half the country at the time. And so,
Wait,
yes.
100 years?
100 years, 1904. The Louisiana Purchase was 1803, so they're about a year late.
Oh, okay.
They're going to do it in 1903. They got a little held up. So it was happening in 1904. It was already ready to go. It was a big, big deal.
That
Chicago was
seems weird.
right near, Chicago's pretty near St. Louis, not too far from St. Louis. And they already had a bunch of sporting events. And it was the big thing. They wanted to get crowds from all over the world. Now, at the same time, there's going to be Olympics in Chicago. The St. Louis organizers of this Louisiana Exposition were livid. They're very upset. They didn't like it. So they used their muscle. They started pulling some strings. They basically went to Olympics and said, we're going to put on our sporting events. We've already signed some big people up. We will crush you. Remember, this is the time the Olympics, this is only the third Olympics. The second one had been kind of a blah.
Yeah.
It's unthinkable now. But Baron Coubertin caved.
Yeah.
He said, okay, fine, St. Louis, you get the Olympics. You can have it in conjunction with your Louisiana Exposition. I'm having a hard time saying the word Louisiana. So they said, okay, that's great. They planned for more sporting events. They added on. They had like 5. They already had like some new venues, a new arena, a new course or something like that. So the Chicago Olympics became the St. Louis Olympics. And it became a little bit of an adjunct to this fair. Now, as you know, fairs last a long time. Here's the problem, though. It's probably going to be a problem with whether it's in Chicago or St. Louis anyway, but Chicago made it a little – St. Louis exacerbated this problem. Mm-hmm. No one wanted to go. The
really?
Russo-Japanese War was ongoing, so there's a lot of world tensions. So people were a little bit leery about doing this when there's a lot of world tensions. But more importantly, it was hard to get to.
I was going to say travel would not be super easy.
No, you had to go over months in advance on boats. There weren't passenger planes here. So the travel was going to be very, very difficult. And then, now, if it was in New York or Philadelphia, you travel across the ocean. That's hard enough. No, you had to travel by train inland for 1,000 miles or more. Wow. And St. Louis, even compared to Chicago, St. Louis is more difficult to get to. It turns out you had, we'll talk about in a second here, you just had a much lower turnout and interest from athletes across the country than you would have normally had. And Baron de Coubertin, he made no bones. He was forced in doing it. He basically openly said, I think St. Louis is a shithole, and I think this is not going to go well. So he was not a fan. So it turned out only 651 athletes came. It wasn't bad. It was actually a lot of athletes. Here's the problem. 523 of those were from the United States.
Oh, my God.
Oh.
Another 53 were from Canada. That means only 62 or so, less than 10% of the athletes that took part in the 1904 Olympics were from outside of the U.S. and Canada, and the vast majority from the U.S. It became
not very international.
It was not international. Only 12 nations were represented, and again, by 1, 2, 3 people.
Right.
Wow.
So it was the U.S. and Canada, and also there were athletes from Australia, Austria, Cuba, we'll hear about him in a second, France, Germany, the UK, Greece, Hungary, South Africa, and Switzerland. And there was a couple others that were kind of, like there was an Italian or two and a Norwegian that were competing for the U.S., but were not U.S. citizens. And so there's actually still, I think Norway still to this day has a lawsuit, or not a lawsuit, but like a claim to the IOC saying those should be our medals.
Wow.
Because those people were Norwegian, not Americans. They have a couple medals. Yeah, they're not going to let it go.
In 1904, I would imagine a lot of the U.S. athletes were not.
Tons were, but this was even worse.
Yeah,
they were, person that had been in U.S. a very short time. Were not citizens. Were Norwegians and an Italian. Yeah. There's also one last country, quote unquote, but it was a guy from Newfoundland. Newfoundland was still a British colony at this time. Newfoundland was not part of Canada in 1904. It wouldn't become for decades more. It wouldn't become officially part of Canada. So that's like you said. This is a International Olympics that was very not international. And because it was part of this exposition, it was held over in the end, 146 days.
Wow.
It wasn't just a couple of weeks that you have now.
Jesus.
Because they'd hold some things early on, and then later on, again, they were sort of associated as the sporting events that were part of this fair.
Mhm.
And fairs last weeks and months. And so
Sounds
officially,
terrible.
it was supposed to be like a window from August 29th to September 3rd. They were going to hold like track and field events, things like that. They had some schedules, but the schedules got wonky, and they wound up holding it over weeks and weeks and weeks and
Wow.
delaying things and things
Wow.
like that. They would, weirdly, it was at times it's hard to tell what was an Olympic event and what wasn't. It's like, okay, are we counting that? That's like the YMCA basketball team or whatever. Are we counting that? Is that considered? They weren't clear. And some of those events would be held during this same time in these same locations, in these same venues. It was really weird. There was an Irish sports festival, for instance, and there were some, so they were considered demonstration games, things like hurling and Gaelic football, which are still two Gaelic games. It was like these very much Irish games, but because they held this Irish festival at the time there, it's like they sort of became Olympic demonstration sports, even though they weren't really intended to be. So very loose definition of what was the Olympics and what wasn't at this time. But they did have some kind of breakthrough sporting events. So this was the first time that the Olympics included boxing.
Oh.
It's the first time for freestyle wrestling.
Freestyle?
I know there's Greco-Roman wrestling. I don't know exactly what freestyle wrestling is.
I don't know.
You just get in the ring, you just do whatever you want.
I think so, including like dancing or
I was
to
gonna
carry ball jabbing.
Just straight ball jabbing,
Full on.
light tap and jab.
She thinks that should be a sport, ball jabbing. That would be a
So
sport
we get
that would
the
last.
most jabs in.
That would last one jab. Whoever got to go first wins.
with rolled up damp towels.
I don't know why you're being more specific about this, which makes me very uncomfortable. So once
I
you
was just thinking what guys do in locker rooms.
They don't go for the balls. I'll tell you that. That would not be over well.
Sure, they would if they could.
Oh my God, Carrie.
I know what guys
Weightlifting?
are like.
Okay. Carrie knows a lot about men's locker rooms.
She knows.
I'm sure she does.
She knows the rolled up towels that are
she
damp.
does. She knows the old guy who stands there naked with one leg up on the bench, just letting it swing.
Talks to you for
a long
Makes
time.
direct eye contact.
Oh, yeah, he does. That's unkind. You make direct eye contact with him for sure. Weightlifting, it was called dumbbells, but it was weightlifting. And there's also the first decathlon. I didn't know that. You would think that'd be a core thing.
Yeah.
You know, this is the first in Olympics 3 was the first.
Wow.
I know.
I thought that was back in those
So did I.
The olden days.
ancient.
Yeah, me too. Swimming events were held in a temporary pond outdoors near like Skinner and Wydown Boulevards in what's now,
Wow.
core
They
St.
all got
Louis.
infections.
I'm sure they
That
did.
sounds like a terrible idea.
And how can you imagine
Just made a
outdoor pond?
Yeah.
That's crazy. How do they even know
Yeah.
that what a lane was and
That's so
swim
dumb.
from one side to the other? Whoever gets their first wins.
Yeah.
So there was an American gymnast. They had gymnastics there. There's an American gymnast named George Iser. He won 6 medals. He did this, and why I'm mentioning this is because he had a wooden leg.
Ooh.
Oh.
He had a wooden prosthetic for his left leg.
What did he compete in?
Gymnastics.
Well, but there are lots of different gymnastics.
Yeah, I don't
events.
know. It probably wasn't rhythmic gymnastics because that's a modern invention and a lame one. But it was, I'm going to say he did the rings. The rings, I guess, the leg thing.
Sure.
Maybe.
Pommel horse.
Pommel horse. Yep.
Mounting and dismounting might be difficult.
Yeah.
But hey, he did it.
Yeah. He was
How inclusive.
It's very inclusive. It was. Frank Cougar won 4 medals. He won them in 3 different sports. He won in wrestling. He won in freestyle wrestling. I think when they say wrestling, they mean Greco-Roman. And they also won a medal in tug of war. That's right. Tug of war was an Olympic event. It was an Olympic event from 1900 to 1920.
How fun.
Oh.
To this day, tug of war is still a part of a thing called the World Games, which are annual, international, not nearly as big as the Olympics, but they're still held. They're still a big thing. I don't know if they get, network coverage. Tug of war was a thing. That's crazy to me. Although part of me says, let's bring that back. That's kind of cool. Let's see some people.
And it has to be against 2 countries that are currently in disputes.
Yes,
over
Ukraine versus Russia.
Yeah.
Tug of war.
Yeah.
I love it.
And whoever wins the international dispute.
No.
Yeah.
I don't like that idea.
Kara doesn't like that idea.
I think it would fix a lot.
Russia would.
That's
for
might
sure
overwrite,
cheat.
Emma.
What?
Might overwrite.
Yeah.
Is that really the phrase?
It is now.
I think you just coined it.
You did. The discus was a nail biter this year. A guy named Martin Sheridan and Ralph Rose, both Americans naturally, they threw the exact same distance, 39.28 meters.
Oh, no.
The judges said, what do we do? They said, we don't know. They said, how about they just throw it again?
Yeah.
So they each threw it again, kind of a sudden death discus overtime kind of a thing. And Sheridan won. So they settled
That's
it.
fair.
Yeah.
Sporty way. Ray Urey, he won the standing jumps. You heard that right again. All 3 standing jump events. And he won all of them. So you had to stand there and jump as far as you can.
Like
that was
from standing, just jump forward?
Yes, exactly. So it'll be like 9 feet or something like that.
Oh.
And I don't know how there were 3 different events. Did you jump over things? Did you
Probably.
jump from your left foot only,
Yeah.
your right foot only, your both feet? I have no idea. But there were 3 standing jump events, and he won all of them. He's a good jumper.
Good job.
There are no longer 3. I don't know if there's any standing jump. Is there standing jump still an Olympic sport?
I don't know. I wouldn't be
either.
surprised.
It might be, but just one.
Yeah.
Yeah. They also had the hop, skip, and a jump, but they call it the triple jump now.
Is that a
Really?
joke?
Yeah. No, it's true. You run, you jump one way, and then you land. How do you do? And you jump another way and land and jump one more. Like all in one fluid motion. But yeah,
Right.
so it's basically 3 triple jump. So they hop, skip, and a jump. I don't know
I
if
do
that.
think I know what you're talking
And
about.
that's kind of cool. And of course, the classic long jump.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what that's called, long jump?
Yeah.
The
Where you,
raid
like,
we just
run and-
won, and jump, 28 feet.
Yeah.
They made us do that in high school.
Long jump?
Yeah.
No,
I
it's just
hated it.
just
It
to
was
laugh
really
at the kids.
embarrassing.
Yeah, that was the intent.
It was
for
they
sure
made a
the
bunch
intent.
of kids jump into this like sand pit. Okay.
Yeah, PE's cruel. So the German swimmer named Emil Rausch won 3 medals. He was the top medalist from not in the United States.
Mhm.
And the Galt Football Club from Canada won the gold medal in football, which is soccer for us here in the
course.
United States. But not Canada, the Galt Football Club. I don't know. They just had Canada probably just sent, I don't know, let's just send that club.
Yeah, they're good, right?
They'll do it. And so that's who won soccer. Out of nearly 100 sports at the 1904 Olympics, the only sport that allowed women to compete was, what do you think? If you think about it, it actually goes back to a famous, I don't know, I'm trying to give you a hint. There is a connection to women historically with this event, especially specifically to badass women.
Baseball.
No.
Oh.
Why would you even think that?
A League of Our Own.
That's weird. Okay. First of all, a movie, but
Great movie.
Based on true events.
Yes, but this was based on a legendary event, a legendary people, a female people,
Amazons.
Amazons. And what did they do?
Oh, archery.
Archery. But they also supposedly
cool.
cut off their right breast to better arch with. The women who competed in the Olympics in 1904 in archery did not presumably cut off their right breast, but they did allow women to compete in only archery. That was the only female event.
Hence
Connection
my
to-
beef with the Olympics.
Yes.
And there's a connection to League of Our Own through that. Gina Davis was
Yes.
in League of Our Own, and
Oh,
she is an
yeah.
Olympic level archer.
That's true.
Yes, she is.
True.
So I was technically right.
There were 6 contestants in the female archery event. 5 of them were part of Ohio's Cincinnati Archers Club.
Oh my God.
That's so weird.
That's so
like, I don't know. Hey, girls, you want to go up there and be at the Olympics? All 5 of us? Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be 5 of the 6 people competing. Just a
Wow.
local club.
Yeah.
45-year-old Lyda Howell, she coasted to the gold. She was like the elite female archer of the time.
Gina Davis's great grandmother.
Yeah. Yeah. There was some weirdness, though, beyond there's already been some weirdness. But, like, for instance, there was some corruption. Like, a boxer competed under the name of a more famous boxer to get in and won. But he was found out before he can get medals, and he was booted out because I think otherwise he wouldn't qualify to be in there. So no, I'm that guy. I'm Muhammad Ali.
They really didn't do like their research or
background
work.
check.
They suck.
No, they didn't have a lot of background checks then. 13 runners competed for the 400-meter race. The track, unfortunately, though, didn't have lanes.
Oh.
So it's just kind of a mishmash. And again, that was literally like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Did they really all run 400 meters?
Right.
Maybe not.
Maybe.
But it was the St. Louis Olympics.
Yeah.
I should have mentioned this earlier. The pond where the swimming meets were held was asymmetrical. So it was true that some people were racing shorter distances than others.
Oh my God.
It's like they just didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
And like I said, no question, in the laneless 400 meters, no question, some people were running less distance than others, for sure.
Of course.
I know. So in the tug of war I mentioned earlier, it was also a little bit of controversy because there was the Greeks. There's only 2 non-American teams, and one from Greece and one from South Africa, and they both lost on the first day. So basically the medal competition was all American. All 4 of the final were American. So on September 1st, the men from the Milwaukee Athletic Club won the gold medal because they beat the New York Athletic Club. And so they got the gold. So now New York was going to have to play the next to see who gets silver and bronze. But New York Athletic Club said, screw it. We're done.
Yeah.
This is dumb. We're going back to New
I'm
York. So they
over
just didn't show up. So the 2 St. Louis teams who were going to vie to play New York, they played each other. One got the silver and one got the bronze, which wasn't called the silver and bronze yet. Well, it kind of was. And 1984 was the last time that golf appeared as an Olympic sport, although I believe it's coming back. I think, did I see that somewhere? That golf is coming back as an Olympic sport, which I think is awful because if you want to talk about elite sport, that'd be golf. And it's a waste of water and grass wherever it is played.
I'm not a big golf fan.
It's awful. So the last, in terms of before I head on to the non-sporting event that became infamously associated with 1984, the last sport I want to mention is the plunge for distance diving event. It was the last time in 1984 there was a plunge for distance diving event.
Well, I hope they weren't diving into a pond.
Well, I think the idea was, how deep can you go? How they proved that and how they measured that, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't look it up. I should have. I wonder if they put markers. I don't know.
Yeah.
They certainly couldn't have had, cameras or whatever with them.
No.
And no one's diving down with them because these are as far as you can go. So the plunge for distance, also another Olympic event I wouldn't mind seeing. I think they should bring that back in tug of war. Plunge for distance. Come on, man. I want to see something burst the eardrums.
Yeah.
I'm scared of that. People can really hurt themselves.
Which is why we need to bring it back.
I don't agree.
Well, as I mentioned, these 1904 Olympics were held in association with this exposition. And expositions are not just sports. It's not even that big of a part of it usually. They're mostly showing look at these new machines that will revolutionize the world. The egg beater. So they had something called Anthropology Days.
Oh.
Yes, they are just as awful as you think they are. James Sullivan was the organizer of these in St. Louis, and he was an inveterate racist. And
I see where this is going.
On August 12th and August 13th, they held something called Anthropology Days. And essentially, this was a human zoo. Human zoos were things that had been happening for a few decades by this point, I think, weren't they? Where you essentially had people from exotic locales dress up in their native finest and just sort of be paraded around.
Or maybe not their native finest, but what some costumer decided would be cool.
That's true.
And degrading.
There was a human zoo at the 1889 Paris Exposition. And so James Sullivan said, that's a good idea. Let's do that here for this expedition that we're doing in 1904. And so they got and then there was kind of 2 events. There was kind of this I think there was kind of a World's Fair event at the same time as there was this Louisiana Purchase thing, kind of loosely. So they had kind of a couple different events. They had 1,400 people at one, and they were from places like the Pacific Islands, the East Asia, Africa, the Middle East, both now South and North America. They had them again in their native costumes, almost like you'd see cave people in dioramas and natural history museums today, but they're living human beings treated like dirt.
Jesus.
They had another 1,600 that were recruited specifically for this Louisiana Purchase expedition, and they included Native American boarding school kids. These are people who have been stolen from their tribe, forced into white-run boarding schools, and so they were there to exhibit how well they were assimilating into white society. So I imagine they said, "Oh, look, here's how we churn butter, and here's me sewing something, and hey, look, I'm wearing suspenders and cotton pants and a straw hat." And parading for the assembled to go, "Ooh, look, they're so assimilated. That's so great. Progress. So
We've always sucked.
Yeah,
America.
but they have. They also, though, had them do sporting events as well. And some I guess, I don't know if they made it up. Like they had them do both sort of native sporting events, but also American sporting events. The native sporting events were things like, hold on one second, let me find it here. Okay, so they had them do things like baseball throwing, shot put, running, broad jumping, weightlifting, and that they weren't really familiar with. They were given absolutely no training whatsoever. They were completely inexperienced with these. It was intended to show how shitty they were at sports and how the white man was way better than everybody else. Because look, they don't know how to throw a baseball that they've never even seen before.
Oh my God.
Here, Inuit tribesperson, throw this.
Okay.
Do a broad jump. They had pole climbing though. They had tug of war events. They had things like mud throwing. I think that was intended to show, look, here's their sports.
Yeah.
They throw mud at each other. That's because they're so primitive. They had Ainu from Japan, the non-Japanese native Japanese. They had Patagonians. They had Pygmies from Central Africa. They had
this must have been quite an undertaking.
It was.
Get all those
it was.
People
they had
here.
fairly primitive tribes, or lesser developed tribes from the Philippines. They had Sioux Native American tribes people as well from the U.S. It was they were from all over the place. These human zoos typically did that. They got people from as exotic as they possibly could to the Western mind and the Western mindset.
So bad. And didn't human zoos continue?
Yeah,
well after
this wasn't
time?
the last one for sure. I don't know. We are going to do human zoos eventually.
It's on the list.
It's been on our list to do for a long time.
A horrible thing happened, but they were pretty common.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I've seen stories about them a lot.
Yeah,
we'll have to do that. So James Sullivan said, he was just Mr. Smug, said, "See, I told you, they're really shitty at the broad jump. They don't know what they're doing."
Great.
He said, quote, "The savage has been very much overrated man from an athletic point of view." Wow. So other people said they're, at the time said this is nonsense. This is embarrassing. This is horrible. Yeah. And Coubertin, to his credit, said this. He was disgusted. He said, quote, "As for that outrageous charade, it will of course lose its appeal when black men, red men, and yellow men learn to run, jump, and throw and leave the white men behind them." Ooh. Damn, Baron. He was not happy with that. Again, he basically had to cede his baby to these yokels in St. Louis who did things like Anthropology Days and did human zoos. He was not happy with this. He just forgot it happened. He essentially wanted to make the St. Louis Olympics go.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But here was the reason the St. Louis Olympics have become most famous. It was the greatest marathon since the actual marathon at Marathon many, many years ago. This marathon was the marathon was already kind of a marquee event. At least it was early on. It's now one of the marquee events. I think it's the last event that they hold at the Olympics here in today.
I think I might have heard this story before.
Yes, you have.
I have not.
I think, it was derived from this heroic feat from a runner in ancient Greece. I think it was in 490 BC, the Greek allied city-states defeated the Persians in 490. And so they had some guy, his name was Philippides. He ran supposedly about 26 miles, some people say 22 miles, all the way from, I guess, the battle site back to Sparta, I want to say, and said, "Hey, we won," and then dropped dead because it was such a heroic feat. It was such a long, he just didn't stop, and which is now called a marathon.
Yeah.
Exactly. And although some people say he ran 150 miles, which is not true. That's ridiculous. And then some accounts have it more. He was running this distance to seek help for the battle. I looked at a couple of sources. I thought marathon was it's not really clear what the hell the feat was. At least I read multiple different versions of what happened to give this name of marathon. But it's anyway. For some reason, some guy, the Greeks won the battle marathon, and some Greek guy ran to talk about it. Let's put it at that.
Cool.
Hence, we have a marathon.
Mm-hmm.
This marathon in 1984 was a pretty ragtag group of folks. Some of them were experienced marathoners. Marathon was already a thing. You had the Boston Marathon had been around for years.
Oh.
So, and some people had competed, like the New York or Boston Marathon. Again, remember, they're mostly Americans. There were a fair number, though, of foreigners competing in the marathon because, again, that was a major event. But most of them, I think there was a total of 32 or so people ran. A big chunk of them were just sort of middle distance runners. They weren't really marathoners, which is very, very different. Going 26 miles. That course actually was 24.85 miles. It would later be standardized at 26.2 miles to this day, but it was almost 25 miles. A very long distance to run.
Yeah, why the 0.2?
Because they were trying to mimic, I think, the distance that the Philippides ran, maybe, allegedly, supposedly. I don't know.
Okay.
So some of the Americans had competed and were taken seriously, and they were considered favorites. People like Sam Mello, A.L. Newton, John Lorden, I'm sure you've heard of these folks,
of course.
Michael Spring and Thomas Hicks. Others, though, were less celebrated. There was a guy named Fred Lors, and he was a bricklayer.
Oh.
And so since he worked all day, he had to train at night. So he was a self-trained marathoner. I should say marathon in quotes, because he wasn't really. He had got his place in the Olympics by, I think, placing, not even winning. They had a 5 or a 7 mile distance run in St. Louis before the Olympics to have some, hey, you did well on that, you can be in our Olympics for the marathon. So, and there was a group of non-Americans there as well, some Greeks and a very famous Cuban. So here's the thing though. James Sullivan, he was the guy, remember he was the kind of head of the World's Fair. He was the head of the sporting events for this World's Fair exposition, right? Mm-hmm. And so he really, really he had some theories. One of this, as we've already found out, was that he was a super racist guy and he wanted to have these Anthropology Days and prove how great white people were. The other one was that he had this thing that he thought people shouldn't drink or eat during distance events. You shouldn't have any kind of water whatsoever. So he designed the 24.85 mile race, and he gave them 2 water stations.
Wow.
I believe it was at 6 miles and 12 miles, and that's it.
That's ridiculous.
That's the only place you can get water. You're not allowed water any other times. He thought water was bad.
What?
And he thought it would upset the stomach.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
had he ever actually run a marathon himself?
No, he had not. He was a doughy white guy without any, I'm sure. Yeah, he had not. And otherwise, there were 10 Greeks there because they're Greeks, I imagine. There was also 2 people from the Swana tribe in South Africa who had been invited there for the Anthropology Days. Yeah. But they were also inserted into the marathon as well, and they ran for South Africa. Those were the last black athletes to run for South Africa until after apartheid.
Wow.
And it's only because they're there already, I imagine. Yeah. I'm sure the South African government I don't know if the South African government even knew about it. They said, hey, why don't you guys run?
Wow.
So ridiculous. Their names were Len Twanyane and Jan Mashiani. And that was their first marathons for both of them. They had not run a marathon before. They had their training, by the way. They had been message runners during the Boer War, and there was a big Boer War. In fact, I take that back. They weren't there for the Anthropology Days. There is the Boer War was the most famous war at the time. It was 1898 to 1900. It was the last major war in 1904, right? Mm-hmm. So it was a big deal. So they had this reenactments of famous Boer War battles in the St. Louis Fair, which seems weird, doesn't it?
Yeah. That is weird.
And so they had run messenger. They had been messengers real life in the Boer War. They were reenacting that role for the exposition in St. Louis, and that's why they were entered into the Olympics, even though they'd never, as marathon runners, even though they had never run a marathon.
Yeah.
They were basically reenactors, essentially, who were... My favorite character, and I think everybody's favorite character from this, is a guy named Felix Carvajal. He was a Cuban mailman.
Oh.
That's all he was. He considered his route delivering the mail as, quote, training. And so he just decided he'd basically taken up jogging and said, I'm going to go to be a marathoner.
Good for him.
I agree. So he raised money in Cuba for months before the event by doing like charity runs, but to raise money and got some help from the Cuban government as well. And they sent him off to the U.S. They sent him on by boat to New Orleans. He was supposed to then the problem was he got to New Orleans and said, I like dice. What I'm going to do is use this money that I need for travel and food and lodging, etc. I'm going to win more money because that way I'll have, I don't know if he's just going to keep it or just, I'm good at dice. He lost every penny. He was literally, so he's in New Orleans with not a penny to his name, and he has to get to St. Louis and hang out there. He basically walks / hitchhikes to St. Louis, 1904. So hitchhikes by stage, horse, I don't know exactly, but he more or less walks to St. Louis from New Orleans.
Wow.
Look, good thing he got there in time.
Yeah.
Man was determined.
Yes, he was. He was 5 feet tall.
Oh.
He arrived at the day to run the Olympics. I think it was August 13th. We'll find out that it was over 90 degrees.
Yeah.
He was in a white long sleeve like dress shirt, dark thick pants, like business pants kind of thing.
Probably wool.
Probably a beret and street boots, just boots, the normal boots he wore, heavy, thick leather boots. So that people go, you're going to fucking die in that. The other athletes. So one of the athletes found a pair of scissors, and at least they cut his trousers at the knees. Wow. So you see pictures of him, and he basically has cutoffs, but at the knees. They're like long shorts. He's got his boots on. He's got his flowy white shirt. He's got a number in front of him, and he's 5 feet tall, and he's ready to go.
Hilarious.
It's awesome.
In his boots. Still in his.
Absolutely. So again, they had 6 miles. But the beginning, at least the track was supposedly marked by flags, but it wasn't well marked, and we'll see later. And by the way, it was in and around St. Louis, right? People don't care. People going about their business. Yeah. So there's delivery wagons. There's railroad trains. It crossed railroad lines. They had to wait for trains to cross or dodge the trains. There's trolley cars. People walking their dogs. As we'll find out in a minute, feral dogs attacking one person. It was no sense of control of the route whatsoever. People going around their daily business. So they had, just somebody walking in front of them or a group, whatever. They had to run around them or they had to cross streets as well and wait for traffic and dodge cars, early cars, or at least, I don't know if they were horses and stages by this point, probably were, but, no control, and some people did get lost because it wasn't that well marked. Also, when they started, a whole bunch of like cars and coaches and stuff like that, and they had little teams. They'd have like a couple of teams. Some even had I guess there's like doctors there just in case. But the problem was these horses and these coaches went ahead of them. So they immediately started kicking up massive amounts of dirt and dust, leading the way. And it's like, on your marks, go. And they run immediately into a cloud of particulates, which is now considered a major health hazard, as we know.
And it's 90 degrees.
Yeah, it's 92 degrees.
And they're not getting any water.
They had 2 times to get water. This is not going to end well, and indeed does not.
Oh my gosh.
And behind them was this motorcade of journalists and doctors and support people and things like that. And so all these people were kicking up dust and making it very, very difficult to run. But run they did. Fred Loers took out the lead at the beginning, but he was edged ahead at mile 1 by Thomas Hicks. These are a couple of the American favorites, even though Thomas Hicks was the bricklayer. At the about 10-mile mark, Fred Loers was the bricklayer. He started becoming he got overwhelming cramping, right?
Which happens.
Very much so. So he just flagged down a car. They think later on it was his coach. And he said, I'm done. I'm out. Just give me a ride to Francis Field. Yeah. Which is what they're going to end.
That would have been me.
So he was done. The champion of the Boston Marathon just the year before, John Lorden, he was Irish born. He was an American citizen, at least we think he was. And he began vomiting brutally, and he walked off the track and he said, I'm out. So he was like maybe the favorite, and he was so exhausted. Again, it was brutally hot. Yeah. I'm sure it's very, very humid. Yeah. This is Missouri, and you're kicking up dust. So he started throwing up, and he was gone. Len Tao, who was one of the South African participants, he was chased well off the course by a pack of feral dogs.
Oh my God.
They just went after him. So he's literally fleeing for his life from feral dogs. He would later go on and he would come back to the course, but he was, he didn't run 24.85 miles.
Right.
He ran 26 or so. He ran more because he had to first flee feral dog packs. Felix, our favorite, Carvajal, the Cuban, he was, trotting in his big boots and his billowing white shirt, but making pretty good time. But he would just occasionally stop and start chatting up people along the way. Or sometimes he'd try to talk to participants.
Hey.
How you doing? And he would, or spectators, and he would stop and talk to him in this very, very broken English. And one time, he kind of famously, a car was driving along and he stopped the car because he saw that they were eating peaches and he was hungry. And so he said, "Hey, can I have some peaches?" They said, "No, you're not getting any of our peaches." So he reached in, grabbed two of them and ran off on the car.
He's my favorite.
So he eats his peaches. And then later on near the course, what does he see? A peach orchard.
Oh.
So he stops at the peach orchard and just gorges himself. Just starts eating peach after peach after peach. No, I'm sorry. I think it was an apple orchard. I take that back.
Oh, okay.
So he stole the peaches and he stops at an apple orchard and he starts eating a lot of apples. Unfortunately, it was late in the season, so they're rotten.
Ew.
But he was hungry. And so
Yeah,
he eats a bunch of
probably.
rotten apples, and what happens?
Throws up.
Massive stomach cramps. So what does he do? He lays down and takes a nap.
He is my favorite one.
Felix is awesome. So he steals peaches, chats with spectators, steals more apples. They're rotten. Keeps eating them. Lays down and take a nap. We'll see what happens with him. So now Sam Mellor, he was American. He was in the lead. He also started having severe cramps. Again, you weren't allowed to properly hydrate.
Yeah.
So they're getting terrible stomach cramps. So he started slowing down to a walk. And eventually he just stopped at the 9-mile mark. I'm sorry. He stops for a while. He's resting. So people are forced to rest, stop, walk.
Right.
This is not what we think of as Olympics in these days at
No.
all.
Well, can't they stop somewhere and get their own water?
You'll see later, but Hicks was begging. They're not allowed it.
Oh.
Like Sullivan said, no one is
Wow.
giving him water. So like he was begging his handlers for water and they wouldn't give it to him.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. So Hicks, at the 10-mile mark, he's Thomas Hicks. Again, he was one of the favorites. He was in bad shape. So he starts asking, he had two of his handlers kind of driving along more or less with him, and he begs them for a drink. They say, "We can't do that, but what we can do is we'll sponge your mouth with warm water. But that's it, not enough for you to drink. That's all you can have." So, but later, they said, "Okay, we can do a little bit better than that. We've got this concoction. It's egg whites. It's laced with a very small amount of strychnine.
Ooh,
Strychnine,
what?
as you know, is a poison that can kill you
Yes.
in decently large doses. In very, very small doses, it was already in this time taken as a stimulant. So in a sense, this is the first time someone had used performance-enhancing drugs in the
Wow.
Olympics. It would not be the last. But so he was given egg whites with strychnine, with a very small amount of strychnine, to pep him up and get him going back on the race.
Intense.
And it worked. It was pretty common. It worked. Hicks also, I don't know if it's secret or not secret, but he also had a flask of French brandy.
Ooh.
I'm sorry, his handlers had the French brandy, and that was like for emergencies only. Break only in case of emergency. So they said, "You're not ready yet." They wouldn't give him any brandy. So again, I don't know how hard or fast it was, but the fact that his handler said no water, that tells me that this was some kind of directive.
Yeah.
Rule. That's
So-
terrible.
About halfway, Mellor is still leading. He's leading Newton and Hicks. I'm sure they're by some estimates it got up as high as 104 degrees that day.
Wow.
It was just absolutely brutal.
That's the worst.
At 16 miles, Mellor is barely moving. He's cramping horrifically. He thought for a second that he had incorrectly taken a wrong turn. So he's getting somewhat delirious.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
he's the leader at this point. At mile 16, he's going to lose that lead, though, because he thought, I took the wrong course. He did not take the wrong turn.
Yeah.
So he starts going backwards to get back on the right course. He was
Oh,
not
that's
going.
So bad.
So he hadn't done it. So he's just tiring himself out, already incredibly fatigued. He's making
Yeah.
even worse. So Hicks and Newton quickly passed him. a guy named William Garcia. He was from Oakland, California. He was also a heavy favorite, or at least someone who was thought to be considered a contender. I don't know if he was in the lead. I know he wasn't in the lead at the beginning, but he got so much of the dirt and dust that it lined his esophagus, and he actually collapsed.
Wow.
On the course. He was coughing and spitting up blood as well. And he was, so they later found out he was hemorrhaging. If he had been allowed to lay there, he'd laid on the course. Someone arrived, probably a spectator, got there in a car and took him to the hospital, and he got medical treatment.
Wow.
They estimated that if he had laid there another hour, he would have died.
Jesus Christ.
It was all because the dust had just coated his esophagus, and I guess that the particulates had ripped up his stomach lining. So he's coughing up blood. Why he got it worse? I mean, everybody was coughing early on. Why he got it worse, I don't know the answer to that.
Maybe he just breathed in a huge gust.
Yeah, maybe so. So he was in bad shape too.
Oh, Jesus.
Meanwhile, again, everybody's cramping. Loris is cramping too. Okay, so remember Fred Loris, who got the ride from his handlers to take him back into the arena. The arena was, the stadium, whatever, was Francis Field. They're going to end up the marathon there with the cheering crowd. He actually got out of the car a couple miles and said, I'll just run the rest of the way.
Hint, hint.
Yep.
I mean, wink, wink.
Either one works, but Carrie winked weirdly for both times of this. So he had ridden, I think, about 11 miles in a car. So almost half the race he had hitched a ride.
That's how I like to do marathons too.
And so he runs into the stadium like and one of Thomas Hicks, one of the other favorites, one of his handlers was there already. And he said, no, wait. I saw that guy get into a car, and he ordered him off the course. Loris ignored him and just kept running, and he finished and did the whole crowd and everything like that, and he finished with a time just under 3 hours, which would be a really, really good time. The crowd roared. Alice Roosevelt was there. She was the daughter of President Theodore Roosevelt, and she was a very famous person this time.
Yes.
She was the it girl of the United States.
Princess of America.
She really was.
Cute.
And she placed a wreath, or was about to place a wreath on his head as the crowd yelled, "An American won! An American won!" Which was that's not that amazing. And
they were mostly Americans.
They were just about to give him the gold medal when a witness said, "No, stop this now! I saw that guy get in a car." They said something like, they charged that he was an imposter. And that's not the right word.
Yeah.
No.
But you know what he meant. And so people explain, no, that guy's been driving for the last half of the race. And Loris just puts on a little smile and says, I know. I was just a joke. Come
I'm
on.
a stinker.
I was just messing around. He literally played it off as I was just kidding.
Listen, guys, it was silly. I was being silly. It didn't land right. It's my bad.
He would actually, he would be banned for life. It wouldn't last that long, but they did not take it as a simple joke. You have to wonder if no one had noticed what he would have done.
Yeah. Oh, he would have gone with it. He would have gone with it.
So go back to Thomas Hicks. He's got some strychnine and some strychnine and some egg white in his system, but he is pale. He's barely moving. He's in the last stages of it. He's also in the last stages of almost dying. And so his handlers came back to him and said, hey, Loris has just been disqualified. You're in the lead.
Yeah.
Keep going. You're going to win this thing. So they gave another dose of strychnine and egg whites. And they broke out the brandy. They gave him a little bit of brandy as well. They got some warm water and sponged his mouth also. And one person wrote later, over the last 2 miles of the road, Hicks was running mechanically like a well-oiled piece of machinery. His eyes were dull, lusterless. The ashen color of his face and skin had deepened. His arms appeared as weights well tied down. He could scarcely lift his legs while his knees were almost stiff, end quote. He was dying as he's finishing his legs. He also began hallucinating, and that when he was almost at the finish line, he thought, oh my God, I have another 20 miles to go. This is bullshit. I cannot do this in the 20 miles. You have 100 yards, dude. Keep moving. He begged them for something to eat. He then said, can I just lie down for a while? Could you imagine being almost going to win the marathon? Can I just have a little nap?
Can I please
Can I have a lie down? They gave him 2 more egg whites.
Oh, God.
And he and I guess just before the stadium, there was a couple of hills. And it was just brutal going up. But then on the way down, he was actually able to bring back a jog. He's basically been walking for a while. He's almost like speed walking, I guess, maybe.
Yeah.
And he finally is just shuffling on the when he gets into the stadium. So what happened is that 2 of his trainers picked him up and they carried this man over the finish line as he kicked his legs as if running in the air like a dog in a dream. So he was declared the winner.
Yeah.
Wow.
2 people carried his ass over the finish
Yeah.
line. I know you're kicking your legs, Thomas, but you were carried over. So he was carried over, and it's like they already had one guy just DQ'd for
Faked
driving
it,
the car. It's
yeah.
like, you know what? You won. 4 doctors rushed over to him. It took them an hour for him to just be healthy enough to leave the stadium. He lost 8 pounds during the race.
Wow.
Oh my God.
And he said, quote, "Never in my life have I run such a tough course. The terrific hills simply tear a man to pieces." That's another thing too. I should have said that it ran over significant hills along the way the course did, which is just, again, you don't do that.
So this was a torture.
It was absolutely torturous. It was brutal and beyond physically demanding. Not just the course itself would have been horrible without the 100-degree weather.
Mm-hmm.
A guy named Albert Corey finished second at 3 hours and 34 minutes. And about 13 minutes later, Newton, I think it's Frank Newton, he finished third. Felix Carvajal, he recovered. He took his nap. 4th place.
Wow.
Just out of the medal count, but very impressive.
Technically, he should have been bronze.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
The guy, Len Tanyane, who had been chased off the course by feral dogs.
Yeah.
9th place.
Okay.
And his co-countryman, Mashiani, finished in 12th place. So they finished.
Wow.
That was it. More than half the entrants did not finish.
Yeah.
It was the worst finishing in the history of the Olympics, for the marathon.
Sounds like it.
Some of the people who did finish also, by the way, literally hours later. It's like, oh, we were just packing up. It's dark.
Took the balloon arch down.
Everything was gone. So Sullivan, of course, James Sullivan, the guy who was in charge of the sporting events, he claimed the marathon was proof of racial superiority. Despite the fact that 2 black South Africans had finished 9th and 12th, one of whom was chased by feral dogs. So I'm not sure how that works.
They were just said like, "Hey, you want to join?"
Yeah.
They weren't trained.
And there was one white runner from South Africa. His name was Bertie Harris. He never made it to the field. He just gave up and walked away. So again, it was the lowest percentage of finishers in the history of the marathon in the Olympics. 2 days later, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch called it a man-killing event. And they said that and a lot of the Olympic Committee members were demanding that the marathon be taken out of the Olympics because it's just considered too grueling and dangerous.
Yeah.
A quote, "A 25-mile run is asking too much of human endurance." So, no.
I agree.
Yeah.
You'll never catch me doing that.
James Sullivan was still part of the American IOC. He became important. He was disappointed. He became part of the planning for the 1908 games. I'm sorry, 1908 games were going to be in London. I misspoke earlier. 1900 was in Paris, France.
Oh.
Sorry about that. So 1900 was Paris, France. The 1908 games were in London. They're already in planning for that by this point. And he was able to, hold on one second.
Well, then I owe the Londoners an apology.
Yes, you do. Because there's the
They were
French.
just
Is
too
like,
low-key.
you know what it was? 1900, French ennui. There's a lot of ennui at the time.
Sure.
So, in James Sullivan, who was a big guy. Look, the marathon shows the superiority of the white race. When people started condemning it, he said, "Okay, no, you're right. Marathon's awful. Let's stop the marathon." He tried to get it taken out of 1908 Olympics in London. He failed at that. What he did, though, succeed at was he was a crazy ass misogynist, and he was able to bar any American woman from competing in the 1908 Olympics.
That's so mean.
I think they're starting to open up some more events. But to his great upset, I'm sure, 1908 saw the first Olympic gold medal awarded to a black athlete. His name is John Taylor, and he was a U.S. distance runner, and he was able to win a gold in 1908, the first.
Cool.
Nice.
Hicks, Thomas Hicks would never run another marathon as long as he lived. He was done. The lifetime ban for Fred Loers that he was given for trying to cheat jokingly was lifted after a year. And he ran in the Boston Marathon in 1905. It was like a ban for
All marathons?
Yeah, all
How
marathons.
funny.
Wow.
I know. Felix Carvajal from Cuba, he continued to travel and do various long distance runs and marathons. He was in 1905. He even came back to St. Louis for the inaugural all-Western marathon, whatever that is. And in 1906, Cuba sent him to Greece for this kind of an Olympic-like marathon event. But on his way to Italy, he disappeared. They thought he was dead. He was gone for a long time. They presumed he was dead. They had they had obituaries in newspapers. And then suddenly, months later, he's back in Havana and he starts racing again. I'm going to say he did the same thing and he gambled. Whatever money they gave him, he gambled it away.
Oh, absolutely.
In the end, the U.S. won 231 total medals. 76 gold, 78 silver, and 77 bronze. This is the first time, by the way, they did call it the gold, silver, and bronze. Before that, like in 1896, the winner got a silver medal, and they also gave an olive branch, and they gave a diploma.
Oh.
In 1900, it was also 1900 in Paris. It was a silver medal. Though some of the sources I said it was gold, and then they gave like another silver, and then a trophy. In 1904 was the first time, from what I can tell, the first time it was gold, silver, bronze was 1904. And even then, though, in a lot of the events, they weren't given medals. They were given just a little trophy or something like that. Not every event got a medal, but this was the first time it was kind of, established that was the order and that the major events at least got those medals. So 231 total medals for the U.S., 15 for Germany, placing second, 6 for Canada, and then so on, including one for France. They won a single silver. And Britain, the UK, won 2 medals, 1 gold, 1 silver. Both of those medalists were actually from Ireland. They're Irish.
Wow.
Remember, Ireland is still part of the UK at this point. So both the British medals were actually from people who were Irish.
Good for you, Ireland.
And that is the story of the 1904 St. Louis Olympics. The best, and still is the best Olympics to ever grace the Olympic, whatever the the best Olympics ever. That's what I meant to say.
I think it's the worst.
Oh no, come on!
Which
People
makes it the best.
Chased by dogs.
Yeah.
Guy almost dying from a stomach lining, esophagus coated with dust. Cuban dude running in boots and a billowy white pirate shirt.
And didn't he get fourth?
He got fourth. Dude eating strychnine laced eggs. Another dude riding for 11 miles in a car and trying to pull off a Rosie Ruiz.
Yeah.
So I think this was the greatest.
That's amazing.
The Anthropology Days. Those were.
Have they made a movie about this?
They really should.
They should. So interesting.
That would be.
Like even just the marathon alone.
Yeah.
Like not the whole 1904 Olympics, just the marathon.
Have some background of the other stuff. For sure have a scene showing tug of war.
Yes.
People taking tug of war seriously as an Olympic event. Something like that. But yes, definitely have.
Okay, someone.
Okay, get on it.
Have a real douchebag. Rafe Fiennes can play James Sullivan.
Perfect.
Oh no, he can play the Baron Pierre de Coubertin.
Sure.
Who can play the James Sullivan, the douchey, misogynistic, racist piece of shit?
He was American?
He was American, yeah.
Oh, who's the sideways guy?
Paul Giamatti?
Yeah.
I like it, Carrie.
I love Paul Giamatti.
I
he
know.
just looks like
pull it off.
he belongs in the early
Absolutely.
1900s.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I like it. We've done it. Hollywood.
Fantastic.
You're welcome.
We already did half the casting for you.
You take it from here.
Wait, Oscar, what's his name has to be in it.
Oscar Isaac?
Yeah.
Why Oscar Isaac?
He'll be the Cuban man.
No, he's
Oscar
5
Isaac's not
feet
Cuban,
tall.
Excuse me.
He's also 5 feet
He's
tall.
also a little bit too
The guy
old.
weighed about
Just
100 pounds. No,
perspective.
you're going to have a very slight person.
John
to do
Leguizamo.
that. We've got to, actually,
perfect.
I mean, he played Toulouse-Lautrec. He can play. I think we're going to have to find some role for Pedro Pascal because he should be in everything
Oh,
always.
did I call him
Pedro
Oscar?
Pascal.
Oh, that's who I meant.
Who? For
Pedro
who?
Pascal?
Yeah.
Instead of Oscar
Yeah.
Isaac? So you don't know the difference between Pedro Pascal and Oscar
I don't know
Isaac.
who
You're a
Oscar
monster.
Isaac is.
They're best
But I
friends.
know
Yeah, you
who
do.
Pedro is.
They're best friends
No.
in real life. Did you
Pedro
know
and
that?
Oscar? Or
Mhm.
as Gary calls him.
Pedro
Pedro and
is
Oscar.
What is Pedro?
Pedro's, I think it's Argentinian?
Chilean.
I don't know. So, what'd you think?
That was interesting.
I thought so.
Never heard of it.
Hilarious.
Hilarious.
I'd heard the Felix story.
Yes,
But-
the Olympics. I know.
but not the
the Dollop did an episode on the Olympics. On just the marathon, a long time
I
ago.
think My Favorite Murder did too.
Did they really?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Oh, there was no murder.
There was no murder.
They've expanded beyond
Have they?
just
Apparently so.
murders. Yes.
There's
Okay.
only so many murders you can cover.
We're done with murders. Murders are such downers.
We've done all the murders, guys.
Okay. They're going to start murdering people to have stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
No.
Ooh, okay. That sounds like a scream. You know what we can have? Them too. All right. Thanks for listening.
Nice.
Until next time, hopefully you did enjoy that on a more, I don't know if uplifting is not the right word. It's not exactly inspiring, but no one died. One guy almost died, as I told you, but
Yeah.
no one died, and it wasn't. And there was a horrible racist event. Okay, it wasn't quite as positive as I made it out to be, but still, hopefully that was better
On
than
the whole.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.